Hello, welcome to the Leave the Key radio show. I'm Larry Wagner, your host, and I'm here with my business partner, Jamell Givens. Good morning, Jamell.
Good morning, Larry.
Today we're going to cover two topics. One a little more in my wheelhouse and one a little bit in your wheelhouse, but we're both somewhat well-versed on both topics, and that is the age-old question, should a seller renovate their house prior to selling it? That could be a small renovation, it could be a large renovation. I get this question all the time. We're called into people's homes, oftentimes in disrepair, and debating if they want to sell to people like us, we're cash buyers, we're real estate investors, or they want to go through the trouble of fixing it and then selling the house the normal way through a realtor and so on. The second thing I want to discuss today will be about selling rental properties here on Long Island. Most rental properties are single-family, two-family homes. And what is it like to sell a rental property? What do you need to know? And we need to know if you want to buy a rental property. And that's really more in your wheelhouse, Jamell. That's more where your end of our business runs.
Yeah.
So let's start with the first of the two. When I see a seller, they call me in, they want me to take a look at their house and debating about working with us, or should they go do the renovations themselves versus selling to us in its current condition. And there are many times I tell a person the house is in great shape, they should sell retail. Other times the house is usually in much worse shape than that and it requires a massive renovation. It could be a six-figure renovation. Do you have thoughts as to the advice I would give those people? I know what I tell those people.
Yeah.
You've been doing this longer than I have.
I have some pretty strong feelings about that. But so when speaking with the seller, we try to look at the scenario, the situation they're in before giving them any advice. And there are a few scenarios we run across pretty regularly. One being the homeowner that's been in their home 20, 30 plus years. They did their home and, they raised their family there. And now they're at a point where they want to downsize or, move out of state, whatever the case may be. And they don't want to go invest $75,000, $100,000 into this home to get it to market value. One, there's the cost to do it. But more importantly, it's the time and the effort it takes dealing with a contractor. And if you don't pick the right one, we all know how that can end. I mean, we do this for a living. And, every now and again, we get, we have to deal with a bad contractor. And it's a sucky situation. So if you're a seller and you're doing this one time, you don't want to go through that process. So a lot of times I tell sellers, if your goal is to just sell and buy something else, you're better off
selling it as is and moving forward and not going through the trouble of construction. And that's what we're here for. We pick up the construction mantle and we run with it. The reason we can afford to do construction and a homeowner really shouldn't is because we have many advantages over a homeowner. One is we do a lot of it, so we're good at it. We've done hundreds of homes at this point. We give out millions of dollars worth of construction funds every year to a limited number of contractors. In addition to that, we buy wholesale. We'll buy, how many kitchens do we buy? I think about 20 kitchens at a time. When I say kitchens, I mean the appliance packages for kitchens. We'll make deals with the resellers and they'll inventory them for us. We'll pay in advance for 20 kitchens. And in the course of, 5 months or so, we've used them all up, but we got them at a very cut rate price, much less than anyone else is going to get them. So we're able to do things that a homeowner can't do when it comes to the price. We typically work at about half the price of a homeowner when we do a renovation. But what you were getting to was the quality of life about a homeowner going through renovation.
Yeah, I mean, the time and effort it takes, it's just much easier for them to sell to us cash. They can move on. If they want to go that route, it's a long process. And it's an arduous process. So a lot of times it's much easier to just go with a cash buyer, especially, if you're in another scenario that we deal with quite a bit is the inherited property where you have multiple heirs. And if it's going to cost a lot of money, they may not want to all kick in this money.
That's right.
So in that scenario, it's a much easier process for them to just say, hey, let me call a cash buyer, sell this property, we can split the money and we all go our separate ways.
On inherited properties, that's probably our number one phone call we get is inherited properties. It's probably tied for upset like a divorce, things of that nature. But typically there's 2, 3, 4 beneficiaries and only one is going to be responsible for doing the renovation.
Yeah.
And that's a full-time job. Believe me, I know. It's what we do full-time.
Yeah.
So the thought of doing a renovation on a house you're not living in, you may be 5 minutes away from your parents' house who now you just inherited, you may be 2 or 3 or 4 states away from the house. That also factors into it. And again, how much time are you willing to put in? But the other issue is if you live in the house, living through a renovation is considered nightmarish. It's one of the biggest reasons of divorce. They say it's a few things, and I think renovations ranks as number 3 on the reason people get divorced. It's a very, very stressful process, and if you don't have to go through it, we don't recommend it. But the numbers don't lie. And if you look at the actual return on investment, and this is what people don't realize, if I just fix my bathroom, I'll get more money for my house. Well, the reality is if you fix your bathroom, you're going to get back 70 cents on every dollar you spend. So if you spend $15,000 to renovate, let's make $20,000 to renovate your bathroom, you're going to be able to increase the value of your house by $14,000. So you've lost $6,000 renovating your bathroom. We're going to renovate it for about $10,000 or $8,000. And that's how we can make money. So we can increase the value of the house by 14 and spend 8. That's why there's a specialist in every industry. And in the real estate world, the cash buyers, our specialty is doing construction very inexpensively. And it doesn't mean poorly. We do the same quality work. We just do it in bulk. We have our standards. We buy tile in bulk, and all that helps. But the biggest reason is our contractors give us discounts because we're working on empty houses. And that's a very, very important factor. Yeah. So if you're considering renovating versus calling someone, a cash buyer, I recommend call a cash buyer to see where you sit first. And remember, the best return on investment is basically second best. I'm going to say is a new garage door. It's only 94% return. There is no investment, improvement that will actually get you 100 cents or more on the dollar. So if you know every investment you're going to do is going to cost you more than you're going to be able to increase the price of your house, why would you do that? And I'm looking, the top 10, start adding new veneer to your house, a new brick veneer or stone veneer to your house is number 1 with a 97% return. And the number 10 is adding a bathroom with a 59% return. And adding a bathroom costs between $20,000 and $25,000. So again, why are you going to lose $10,000 by adding a bathroom to make your house more saleable? It's just not a logical play. And I have this discussion with people all the time. Another big issue is people who do choose to renovate tend to over-improve. They'll spend more on the kitchen than necessary to do a renovation. And we know exactly what we need to do for each neighborhood we work in. There's a certain amount of money we're willing to spend if we're working in a neighborhood in, let's say, Old Westbury, where houses are selling for $2 million, or we're working in Comac, where houses are selling for $500,000 or $600,000, or if we're working in a lower income neighborhood where houses sell for $250,000. You have to know what level of renovation to do. Yeah, I mean, that's a very big part of what it is that we do.
And I think, another thing, a lot of times people will say, I just need to do a kitchen, and I think that's sometimes it's not in your best interest to just do one part of the house, because buyers will come in and say, oh, you have a really nice kitchen. Why didn't you do the bathroom?
Right.
Or you changed the windows upstairs. Well, how come these are new windows and the ones? And then they want a discount for things, that you spent money on. Right. So it's almost counterproductive sometimes to do something. I'm of the belief that it's almost like an all or nothing. If you're going to do the work, you almost have to renovate the entire home. And at that point, all the things, for all the reasons you just listed, it's more times than not, it's better to just call in a cash buyer. We get it. We can get the job done for far less. That's where we make our money. So
absolutely,
for that reason alone, I typically will tell a seller, it's all or nothing. And, usually you should do nothing.
Correct. Also, if you really have any questions about it, reach out to us at leavethekey.com. That's leavethekey.com. You can go right on our website, set up an appointment. We can speak to you by telephone or meet face-to-face, take a look at your home. My background is as a furniture designer and interior designer, and I can come in. I'm more than happy to talk to you about what is it your home needs, and then you can make a decision whether you want to do it yourself or not. So that's really what we are. But the most important thing is, if you're going to go the route, which we're really not recommending, which is do the construction, the number one thing to know is that you should not over-improve the property. Don't put in a $70,000 kitchen in a $300,000 house. There are rules of thumb as to how much you should spend on each individual item. But in the meantime, you're listening to the Leave the Key radio show, and you can reach us at leavethekey.com. We spoke the first half of the show about people selling their homes, should they do renovation prior to selling, or should they not do a renovation? Just call someone like us at leavethekey.com. That's leavethekey.com to see if they want to sell to a cash buyer, someone's willing to buy a house that's not in the best of condition or worse. And now we're going to talk about people who own rental properties or are thinking of buying rental properties. With finding more people are selling them right now than buying them. But Jamell, why are more people selling than buying in this environment today?
There are a whole host of reasons why. One of the most common questions we get when a landlord calls and they're selling one property, they don't do this as a business, So one of the most common questions they ask, can I sell my property with a tenant in it? And the answer to that is yes. They think that they need to remove the tenant or evict them because they're not paying. We buy a lot of properties sight unseen, with a tenant or without. But so some of the reasons they're looking to sell, the laws have changed. Their eviction rules have become much tighter in New York. As COVID didn't help it either. So they may be looking to just get some money out of the property or just no longer be a landlord. It's become very tough in this environment. So
a lot of the rules used to pertain to New York City, and now from Albany, they now pertain to the entire state. And the worst part of it is the eviction rules. What do you know what they added to the eviction rules as far as the judge's option at the end of the process?
Some of them, you have to give them adequate time to find a place at the rent they were getting charged there. So if you had someone in this home for 20 years and they were paying you $1,100, they now have to have adequate time to find something similar rent. And that just doesn't exist on Long Island. I mean, the taxes alone in some places are $1,100 a month. So some of these owners who've owned home for 30 years and have had the same tenants, they just, the homes are paid off. So for them, it's just, they're nice, the tenant is good. They may be out of state or they just don't want to deal with trying to get them out. So they keep such a low rent that it's tough for any investor to come in. And an investor looking at a rental property is looking at it as, it's almost like buying a business. It's a home, but it's like buying a business. So
that's an excellent way of putting it. It really is a business.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very simple. The rent roll has to be greater than the expenses. So if you're collecting, $2,000 a month, then this person more than likely needs to get a mortgage, the buyer, that is. The mortgage, taxes, insurance, expenses, cost of a property manager, those things all have to be associated with running that business. And if the rent is less than that, then they can't afford to pay you what you're looking for. So very simply put, the way an investor looks to buy a rental property is they're going to look at what the rent is, and then they see what kind of mortgage can that support.
Correct.
And they will back that out to see how much they can pay for the home. Now, there's equation to do that, which I won't get into on the radio, but that's pretty simply put, that's how we look at buying homes.
Right. Very simply, you take the rent. From the rent, you have to deduct the mortgage, because anyone who's going to finance the home, anyone who's going to buy the home is going to get a mortgage on it. From there, you have to deduct the taxes. You have to deduct the insurance, a management fee, unless you're going to manage it yourself. And if you're local, you can manage 1-2 properties yourself. And then if you're going to charge the utilities or pay for utilities yourself, that has to be deducted depending on the arrangement you have. You also have to deduct, and this is something that most first-time rental home buyers forget, repairs and maintenance. And we allow a $250 a month fee for repairs and maintenance, because even if the tenant doesn't need repairs every month, which they surely better not, look for a new tenant. When they do leave, you're going to have to renovate the place, you're going to have to repaint the place, recarpet the place. Things only last so long, and things don't last near as long in a rental home as they do in your home. Refrigerators in rental homes last about half as long as in a private home. I have no idea why, but that's the way it is. We've owned dozens and dozens and dozens of rentals, whether they were apartments or single-family homes. And we know we're changing appliances all the time. Stoves last about 3 years in a rental. And those are things you have to factor in, and people don't. So if you're looking to sell your rental and you're going to sell it as a rental, especially a 2-family, you have to sell it like it's a business, because that's how a buyer is going to price it. If you're so basically using those numbers, deducting, see what kind of profit is left. If there's $200 worth of profit left, how much money do you expect someone to pay for that house to make $200? And that's really the question. The other thing is, though, on single-family rentals, do we go through the same formula, Jamell?
Yeah, I mean, we do. We treat each, whether it's a 1-family or 100 unit, we look at it as, again, it's a mini business. And The numbers just have to make sense. That's all it boils down to. Obviously on the larger projects, we use what's called a cap rate.
Right.
Again, so it's a formula that we won't get into here, but on the larger projects, we use a cap rate. But a single family is pretty much the same process. We look at what kind of mortgage can this property support and what type of profit we want to make. And then we just back out the numbers from there.
That's how we do it. That's correct. But yet you're still limited by the retail value of that house if it would be sold to a non-investor, to a non-rental investor. You can't say this house is worth $400,000 because of the rent they can collect, but the neighbors are all selling for $250,000.
That's accurate. Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Yeah.
It works because on a single family, we look at it as a business, but you have to price it as a single family home, and that price has to also be able to work as a rental. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. So for a 1 to 4 family, from a mortgage standpoint, it's treated as an appraiser and a banker, they're going to look at it from a valuation standpoint, meaning, it has to be worth what similar properties in the area are going for. If it's larger than 4 families, 5 and up, then they use income approach. So they'll look at how much income is coming in for that property and what type of mortgage it will support. So we look at it from our standpoint, whether it's a 1 family or 100 family, the same way. But like Larry said, a bank is going to look at it as, for a 1 to 4 family from a appraisal approach.
Correct. And the biggest reason I find people selling their rental properties off today, the problems they're having selling off the rental properties is they're having troubles getting into the house. Tenants don't want them to sell, and won't let them bring buyers into the house, which doesn't help the value of the house if you're buying a house basically sight unseen. Also, if someone is getting cash from their tenant, what do they do to prove to a seller that the tenant is actually paying if the tenant's paying cash?
Unfortunately, they don't. A lot of times, if they get cash, it goes right in their pocket.
Right.
For various reasons, maybe they don't want to report it, whatever the case is. But it's tough for them to then turn to a seller and say, we've been getting rent. They can show us receipts, which will help, but even that's not a guarantee.
Also, if they do show a history of the last 12 months or longer, putting in $2,350 into the bank account every month on the 5th of the month, that can sort of be construed as rent. Also, there is something called an estoppel letter where they get some documents signed by the tenant saying that they've been paying rent. And again, it's worth what it's worth. It's not the same as having a check. These are the issues that you face. There's many, many more that we can cover. If anyone's interested in buying or selling a rental property, please reach out to us at leavethekey.com. That's leavethekey.com. You'll probably end up speaking with Rudy, and then Rudy will get some basic information, then connect you with me, and we'll have a very deep discussion about the rental business, whether you're trying to get into it or get out of it. We have plenty of time to share with you, so feel free to reach out to us at leavethekey.com.